There was once a small village nestled deep within a valley surrounded by blue-gray mountains and whispering pine trees. Every morning, the sun painted the hills in gold, and every evening, the sky turned shades of orange and violet. In this peaceful place, there lived a 24-year-old young man named Marco. But despite the calm surroundings, Marco's heart was never quiet. Every single day, his mind raced like a wild horse that refused to be tamed. Thoughts of the past haunted him, mistakes he made, words he regretted, people he wished he could have treated better. And when he wasn't thinking about the past, his mind jumped to the future, full of worries, fears, and endless what-ifs. He often stared at the ceiling at night, unable to sleep. He'd turn from side to side, his heart heavy, his thoughts louder than the crickets outside. "Why can't I just stop thinking?" he often whispered into the dark. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Marco began to forget how to smile. He felt trapped in his own thoughts, like a prisoner in an invisible cage. One afternoon, while sitting near the village well, Marco overheard two old farmers talking. "Have you heard?" one said. "In the hills far north, there's a wise old man who once lived in the city. They say he used to help people with troubled minds." The other man nodded. "Yes, I heard he was a great psychologist once. But he grew tired of the noise of the world and went to live close to nature. People still visit him sometimes, and they say he gives advice that changes lives." Marco's eyes lit up. Could this be true? He thought. Maybe this man can help me find peace. That night, Marco barely slept. For the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope. And so, the next morning, he packed a small bag with bread, water, and a blanket, and began his journey toward the hills. The path was not easy. The road twisted and climbed through steep slopes. Sometimes he had to cross wooden bridges over flowing streams. Other times, he walked through thick forests where only the sound of rustling leaves kept him company. Days passed. His shoes grew dusty, his feet sore, but he kept walking. Every night, he'd sleep under the stars, his thoughts slowly shifting from regret to determination. By the fifth day, he finally saw smoke rising from chimneys in the distance, the small mountain village he had heard about. At the edge of that village stood a modest little house covered in vines and surrounded by flowering plants. Birds fluttered in the branches, and the air smelled of pine and wild herbs. On the porch sat an old man, calm as still water. His eyes were closed, his face wrinkled yet peaceful, as though time itself had stopped to rest upon him. Marco approached carefully. "Good afternoon, grandfather," he said softly. The old man opened his eyes. They were clear, calm yet deep, like he could see through Marco's thoughts. "What brings you here, my son?" the old man asked in a gentle voice. Marco took a deep breath. "Grandfather, my mind is always restless. I cannot stop thinking, about my past, about my future, about everything. I want peace in my heart. Can you help me?" The old man smiled kindly. "Ah," he said, "you are searching for peace. Then come with me, and I shall give you a small task." He led Marco to the small yard behind his house. There, on a wooden table, sat a clear glass jar and a jug of water. The old man filled the glass all the way to the brim, until the surface of the water trembled with the slightest movement. Then he handed the glass to Marco and said, "Walk from here to the edge of the village and back again. But remember, do not spill even a single drop of water." Marco blinked, confused. "That's it?" The old man chuckled. "Yes. That's it. Simple, isn't it? But do it with care." Marco nodded, took the glass, and began to walk. The path through the village was narrow. Chickens clucked, children laughed and ran, vendors shouted prices, and dogs barked near the road. But Marco didn't look around. His eyes stayed fixed on the surface of the water. He held the glass so gently, every step measured, every breath controlled. One small bump and the water would spill. So he moved slowly, focusing only on each step. Minutes passed. Sweat formed on his forehead. People looked at him curiously, but Marco didn't notice. His world had shrunk to just that fragile circle of water in the glass. Finally, after what felt like hours, he returned to the old man's porch. Not a single drop was missing. "Grandfather," he said proudly, "I did it. I didn't spill a drop." The old man nodded, smiling. "Very good, Marco. Now tell me, on your way, did you see the children playing beside the road?" Marco frowned. "No." "Did you hear the dogs barking?" "No, I didn't." The old man's eyes sparkled. "Did you notice the breeze, or the colors of the sky?" Marco shook his head. "No, grandfather. I only focused on the glass." The old man smiled again and said softly, "Then, my boy, you have already learned half of what you came here for." Marco looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "When you focused on that glass, your mind had no room for other thoughts. You were not thinking about your past or your future. You were fully present, completely alive in the moment. And when the mind is truly present, it becomes silent. In that silence, peace is born." Marco stood there, stunned. For the first time in years, he realized that during that short walk, his mind had been still. No regrets. No worries. Just him, the road, and a glass of water. The old man continued, "Peace does not live in the past or the future, Marco. It lives only here, in this moment. The storm you feel in your heart is caused by wandering thoughts. But when you focus fully on what is now, the storm fades. The sky inside you clears." Marco stayed in the village for a few days. Each morning, he helped the old man water his plants, feed the birds, and sweep the porch. At first, his thoughts would drift again. But the old man always reminded him, "When your hands move, let your mind move with them. Feel the broom in your hand. Listen to the sound of the wind. That is how you live in the present." Slowly, Marco began to feel lighter. The weight on his chest began to lift. He started smiling without realizing it. He even began to enjoy the quiet moments, something he once feared. On the third evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Marco sat beside the old man watching the sky turn red and gold. "Grandfather," he said quietly, "I think I understand now. Peace isn't something we have to find outside. It's already inside us, we just have to stop the noise to hear it." The old man nodded, pleased. "Yes, my son. The river of peace flows through everyone, but most people build dams of worry and regret. Once you let the water flow freely, it will always find its way back to your heart." Marco smiled, his eyes moist. "Thank you, grandfather. I will never forget this lesson." The old man looked at him kindly. "Remember, Marco, every moment is a new glass of water. Walk carefully with it, and you will never spill your peace." The next morning, Marco began his journey home. The air was crisp and the mountains shimmered with morning dew. But this time, the road didn't feel long. The world seemed different, brighter, calmer. Birds chirped in rhythm, and the breeze felt like music. Yet deep inside, Marco knew it wasn't the world that had changed. It was him. He was no longer a prisoner of his thoughts. He was free, and as he reached his own village, people noticed the difference. His steps were lighter. His smile had returned. And when others complained about their worries, he listened, patiently, gently, and sometimes told them the story of a glass of water. Peace is not a treasure buried somewhere far away. It's not something we must chase or earn. It's the quiet that already lives within us, waiting for us to notice it. Whenever you feel anxious or lost, remember Marco's lesson, be present. Focus on this moment, the breath you're taking, the world around you, the life happening now. That's where peace lives. If you enjoyed this story, take a moment to breathe deeply. Let go of yesterday. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Just be here, now, and feel the calm that's always been inside you. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story, with new thoughts, new lessons, and another reminder that peace is never far away. Until then, stay mindful, stay grateful, and stay peaceful.